From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Joshua Rapscallion Bevan.
Rapscallion? Because I'm a pirate?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's great that you do that. I looked it up for sure, and it does say it's one pirate's insult to another.
Okay.
You're mischievous and of low account or low whatever.
Wow.
Moral authority. And if a pirate calls you,
that's what I was going to say.
yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like it fits.
All right.
So that brings me to our friends at Grandiloquent Word of the Day. So Jason and Angela Ott have a Kickstarter campaign for their 2024 calendar. And Jason has compiled all of these amazing, let's call them old-timey words. And old is spelled with an E at the end.
Oh, boy.
And he has been doing this for like 6 or 7 years. They do a monthly calendar and put it out every year. I have gotten every issue, looking forward to 2024. And Jason's hard work is really paying off because Countryman Press is putting out his first book.
Oh, right on.
I know. Of all of I think it's like 280 or 300 pages. And it's a little story about each word. Looking so forward to it. So that'll come out in November of this year. We'll talk about that later. But if you have any interest in a unique, amazing, wonderful calendar for next year, you need a gift, Christmas, birthday, you can go to Grandiloquent, Word of the Day. You can find them on Instagram, on Facebook, their own website. If you know how to traverse Kickstarter, which is like one of my least favorite things in the universe, you can find them, the project there. I think you have till the end of August to contribute and order. I know some of the Tip-Sters have already ordered the calendar. I know some people who've ordered the bookmarks as gifts, and they do ship globally, but globally is kind of expensive. And I know some of our British listeners have ordered things because they're fancy British peeps and they love words, but it's going to be a little pricey, but it's also worth it. So consider getting your calendar for next year for yourself or your friends. And this episode is sponsored by our friends at Graveline Tours. If you go to graveline.rip, choose a tour you would like and put in Tipster40 altogether. And the promo code, you get 40% off, which I think is unheard of. If you're going to be in Southern California, it's a really great thing to do. Joshua and I and Charlotte and Fiona are going on Manson's murderous spree in a few weeks. And a lovely surprise, there is a tipster coming from a very long way away in the other part of the country in September to visit us. And the only thing this person mentioned is that they want to go on a Graveline tour.
Nice.
So I'm going to be hitting up Adam, the owner of Graveline, for a few tickets. And I can't wait to see what tour they want to go on. I'm not sure I should mention their name. That's why I'm leaving it out. So we have...
Will you tell me?
I'll tell you later. Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you. Just so you're not like...
Sweet.
Yeah, you're like, there's someone who's here. Why? And so, no, I'll tell you. But this person is very private. So I'm not sure. So we're going to pick up where we left off in September of 2021 before Mark rudely left me. We were in the middle of a contest. And Tipster Debbie, who is a very artistic human being, had created 2 gorgeous key fobs. One for you and one as a gift to a friend. And we also had a $20 Target gift card. And in August and September, 75 people had entered the contest. And I still have your names. And we're just going to be announcing it the next couple weeks. And we'll draw a winner at the end of September. It's kind of a perfect gift for a Halloween gift because it's a little bit dark and gothy. There's it's red and black. They're red and black. Really cute. It's 2 different ways you can have, the traditional kind of ring key that you have to kind of put your keys on. And then they have the claw, the lobster claw.
Oh, okay.
So you can do it 2 different ways. You can also just hang it off your purse because I know how much that would mean to you, Joshua, to have something to hang off your purse.
I do.
But you can't enter the contest because you are here.
Oh,
so
right.
I know, darn it. And if you can't remember if you entered, go ahead and, send me your name and I'll check it against the list. I still have it. All we're asking of you is that you send us your name any way you like, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, Tipster hotline, and your name will go into the drawing. If you are so inclined to give us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you stream, we would be grateful for that. If you are inclined to tell a friend about the podcast, that would be great. If you're on any group pages, like Facebook group pages on podcasting, and you want to, recommend the podcast, that's a real gift to us. But honestly, all you really have to do is say, hi, my name is, Bob Smith, and I want to be entered. I don't know that we have anyone listening named Bob Smith, but just in case we do. So yeah, just tell us your name and hey, I want that thing. I want the fobs, and more importantly, I'm sure to most of you selfish fuckers, is you want the $20 gift card to Target. Yeah. I get it, but you're going to absolutely love the key fobs. And I wanted to show Joshua what I got today. I mean, not today, this week.
That's cool.
So my friend Bridget went to New York, and she was trying to be surreptitious. Look, he's got a little handcuffs and a little radio.
Oh, nice.
Is that the cutest thing? She got me an NYPD cop rubber duck, and he's in uniform, and it says NYPD. He has a little badge on his sleeve, right. And he has a radio in his pocket and handcuffs on one side. He looks kind of nervous though.
Well, is it nerves, or is it that nerves. He's a
look at him?
Is he not a real cop? Is he just a stripper? Knocked on the door? I
hadn't thought of that. So
we've had a noise complaint.
You got me.
I brought my handcuffs.
Yeah.
Where's the bachelorette?
He's probably a stripper. Maybe that's why he looks nervous. Anyone who looks off to the side, I'm always thinking they're nervous, but he is cute. He is like a healthy duck. I have a lot of mini ducks. He's a good sized duck. So thank you, Bridget. I'm gonna put a picture of him on social media so you can see how effing cute he is. So I told Joshua I was doing a different episode this week, but there's a few pieces of information that came in, and I feel like it's best to wait. As an example, I try to get everything together so that nothing is left out. But after last week's episode on Jenny Isles, you can't believe the number of people that contacted me with more information.
Oh, wow.
I know. So we're going to do an update on that.
Yeah, okay.
Because I was like, God damn it. And it was personal accounts of knowing her, and perhaps the original person indicted his attorney.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I know.
Cool.
I know.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm surprised at your reach, but then, not really. I get it.
Well, thank you. I don't. But thank you.
I listen to the quality of this show. So.
Oh, well, thank you. Because I was like,
cool.
Oh boy. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff to come up, and I knew I couldn't get it all done for today, but we'll be doing an update on that when I get.
Sweet.
Yeah, good. I was like, holy, including people who have first-hand account of giving her directions on the day she went missing.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm telling you, it's hot today, and I have my hair on my arms is standing up, which I don't have hair because I shave them. But anyway, if I didn't shave the two hairs on my arms, they would be standing straight up because I definitely have goosebumps right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really amazing when I got these messages. I was like, are you kidding? And the detail is sort of overwhelming. That makes me not doubt. There's no reason to doubt any of this information, but the detail is oh, all right then. So yeah, we'll be talking about that case again when I get more stuff compiled. So that doesn't help you now, but what helps you now is knowing that this case has somewhat of a happy update, but we still need to find out who did this to them. So for 44 years, this couple, known as the Sumter County Jane and Jacques Doe.
Jacques?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
They went unidentified for 44 years. So from August 9th of 1976 to January 21st of 2021, we didn't know who they were.
Okay. And
what is so interesting to me, I hesitate to put pictures up because these are very, I'm going to say graphic only because of the way they weren't graphically mutilated or anything, but the amount of change in a human body in 2 hours.
Oh,
It was 2 hours. I'll show you later if you want to see them, but it's pictures of them on the ground where they were found and pictures of them post-mortem in a lab. And it's like, they are unrecognizable.
whoa.
And it wasn't like insect activity or anything. It just was like the way the body changes when it's no longer alive.
Okay.
I mean, it's fascinating. And I don't mean it's gross in any way. It's just odd.
Yeah.
It's I was like, they were found within 2 hours and this is what they looked like. Fully clothed, not wearing any undergarments, either of them. Swinging 70s,
I guess. All
1976, but
I mean,
not just fully clothed, Joshua, like really nicely dressed. Nicely dressed, nicely accessorized. Theorized they came from wealthier families because of expensive dental work,
okay.
Jewelry, accessories, expensive watch.
Okay.
None of those things that were taken. It's just odd. And then to think that it was like, summarized that they were hitchhikers and hitchhiking together.
Well-dressed hitchhikers?
Yep.
Is that
super weird, huh?
All right.
Super weird. And the assumptions that were made are even more fascinating when you find out who they really were.
Mm-hmm.
So this man and this woman were thought to have been dropped off on Locklear Road, which is kind of almost a dirt road between Interstate 95 and South Carolina Highway 341. The timing is fascinating, especially if you think of them as being hitchhikers, because there's a little bit of a report about someone seeing them and recognizing them. So and hearing some things that happen. A truck driver sees them laying kind of in a ditch, but it's not like a deep ditch that you couldn't see from the road. So he pulls over, and his name is Martin Durant, and he's driving, down Sumter County, South Carolina Highway and Locklear Road. And he was like, are those people drunk or asleep or tired? And he realizes when he gets closer, they've been shot in the chest, each of them 3 times with what, is now believed to be a 357 caliber revolver.
Okay.
So would a 357 be a pretty big gun?
That's big.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
It's odd though when you see. I won't disturb you if you don't want to see the pictures, but it's 70 pictures from 1976, so the detail isn't clear. But you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't know that they had died of gunshot wounds to the chest from the pictures.
Oh,
I know.
Okay.
I know. So I don't know if that means close range, and then it went out the back. I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
I know it could just be quality of the pictures too.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But three
shots to the chest
with
a cannon, with a hand cannon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's pretty. That feels like bizarrely personal, especially when all their items were on them.
Yeah. Okay.
It could just be like a random nut job who enjoyed doing that, and you'll hear. You'll hear further down the road here some stories, and one person took credit, and it turned out he could not have, just okay. So there's absolutely no eyewitnesses, of course. There were people who were driving by and heard gunshots, and then heard the sound of a car hurriedly driving by, but they didn't stop because they didn't see anything.
Okay.
So it was approximately 2 hours after those noises and a car speeding off that Martin Durant, the truck driver, found them. 2 hours.
Okay.
That's like, unless you see somebody killed in front of you, 2 hours on a dirt road in a ditch.
Yeah, doesn't sound like a lot of traffic.
No, dirt road.
Yeah.
Middle of the day. Middle of the day. Yeah. So it was, it's like a very odd thing to even imagine right now. And then finding someone within 2 hours on a dirt road and there's no eyewitnesses, but there were, I guess, like, what do you call them? Ear witnesses. So there's a nearby campground employee who said, I remembered meeting them a few weeks before. And he spoke with the male, and he said the reason they call him Jacques is because he felt he had not an impediment but an accent,
Okay.
and so they were like, "Oh, maybe he's from another country." So the male doe told this campground employee that he was the son of a Canadian doctor, and that he and his female companion were on vacation and they were going to Florida.
Okay.
Now, the female did not speak or give her name, but they stayed at a campground 2 weeks before they were murdered in the same area.
So 2 weeks, and they're on the road. They're traveling. So something happened for that 2 weeks. They shouldn't be in that same spot for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. If the story that he told the camp employee was correct, that they were on their way to Florida, they would have been there by then.
Yeah.
Even if they walked.
Right. Okay.
Except they didn't walk because they had very nice attire, including shoes.
Okay.
That did not look like walking shoes from Canada to Florida.
Okay.
So it takes 44 years, and in January of 2021, finally, the bodies of Jane and Jacques Doe were identified as Pamela Buckley and James Freund. I do not know how to pronounce this. Freund? Freund?
It sounds good to me.
That's as close as I think I'm going to get. So their identities were given back to them by the DNA Doe Project, which, if you don't know about them, they're amazing. They're a nonprofit volunteer organization that puts names to unidentified, deceased people through forensic genealogy. Wow. So even though not everyone, it was theorized that, he was from Canada because that's what he told people. They're both of American origin, and they were both seen last in December of 1975, which is 9 months before their bodies were found. Pamela was 24 years old and last seen in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And James was 29 years old and had last been sighted in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We don't know for sure, but it was kind of theorized that they were hitchhiking across America. Investigators said they interviewed multiple suspects and persons of interest in an effort to determine who would have killed them. So, Jacques Doe, which some investigators pronounced Jock.
Jock?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of a great Doe name because he, it looked like he came from a family of means. He had these dental procedures. It looked like they had been started, but not completely finished, but they were expensive dental procedures. And that was one of the reasons they thought that he had maybe come from another country, because it was so interesting and unique. Like sometimes people go to Mexico or something, maybe Canada, I doubt it. But for, something like this was an interesting piece of information, a unique form of a root canal that is not commonly performed in America.
Got it.
And he was like halfway through this dental restoration. And Jane had, let's call her name now, Pamela. Pamela had extensive dental work, and she had fillings in all of the back of her teeth, and her front teeth were like perfectly straight, which they thought, maybe she wore braces as a younger person.
Got it.
Neither of them were wearing their undergarments. There was no drugs or alcohol in their system. They had each recently eaten fruit or ice cream with fruit. And a man who operated a local fruit stand said, "Oh, yeah, I sold them some fruit just like shortly before they were murdered."
Okay.
So it's like, they had money on their bodies. James had a 14-karat gold ring and an expensive Bulova wristwatch.
Wow.
Right. They used a serial number on the back of the watch and found out that it had been made in 1968. But unfortunately, Bulova had lost many of its records when the company downsized in the early 70s, and they couldn't figure out where it had been purchased or who purchased it. Right. Pamela had, this is like one of my favorite details. I can't even imagine that they put emphasis on this, but I kind of love that they did. Pamela had on expensive wedge-heeled lavender pink sandals, and she had pretty expensive costume jewelry that was made out of sterling silver. Here's my favorite part. The sandals were Stride Right, which Joshua was too young to remember.
Okay.
But as a kid, Stride Right was like a kid's shoe company.
Okay.
And you would go to the mall and get your fucking kids' shoes.
Okay.
I guess they expanded into adults because she wasn't a tiny person.
Yeah, and Stride Right hung on for a bit.
Yeah, they did.
Or as I think
Tom McCann. There was a lot of like, not upscale, but like mid, like you wouldn't, if you didn't get your tennis shoes at Kmart, you got them at like Tom McCann, or something. And you didn't, they weren't like pricey Capizios or something, but they were a good mid-range, like school shoe, that kind of thing.
No.
But Stride Right was, as far as I knew, was always like a kid shoe.
Okay.
Like you would go to the mall with your mom and get your school shoes at the beginning, in August or whatever. So, and there's pictures of these shoes and they're fucking adorable.
And
adult shoes.
Adult. And, I mean, they go with her expensive everything else.
Yeah.
All right.
Sweet. So here's some people called, James called him Jock, but also because like some of the investigators were like, you know what, he looks like a jock. He's like athletically built, over 6 feet tall, and he was only about 150 pounds. He had shoulder length hair, brown eyes, and he did have I will tell you, the drawings of them both, thank God things have improved over the years, because the first drawings, you're like, were both of them cave people?
Oh no.
And they were beautiful in life. They were beautiful. Like their bone structure, they were beautiful. So even, I should say they were also beautiful in death. They were 2 hours after they die, their pictures, it's like, oh, they've changed so much when you see what they look like. But Pamela had the most beautiful bone structure. She looked like Sleeping Beauty sleeping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he did have some bushy eyebrows, but it was like the first drawings trying to identify them. It's like, do better.
Okay.
Do better. And they absolutely have done better over the years. We still, we know who they are, but we don't know who killed them. So James had this extensive dental work, which they thought was not done in the US, and it was. He had a 4-inch appendectomy scar, and he had several scars on his back and shoulders that suggested he may have been an athlete, because a lot of these scars are commonly found on players of contact sports. Oh, okay. And Joshua and I were talking about his son Wesley, who plays football and was told by the coach, don't bleed on my field.
Yeah. Don't bleed on my field, kid.
Yeah. Wrapping him
Go
up.
Get the trainer to wrap that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't bleed on my field. I wonder if James was told that too at one point. So they thought he was between 18 and 30, and they thought that Pamela was between 18 and 25. And they were close. They were really close. James was 29 and Pamela was 20. So I've read two things, 24 or 25.
Okay.
She was, slim, 5'5", 125 pounds, reddish brown hair, shoulder length, bluish gray eyes. And her most distinguishing features were 2 moles on the left side of her face near her mouth. And she had unusually long natural eyelashes. And she really did. She was so beautiful. She had no surgical scars. And it was determined that she had never been pregnant. And here's my just least favorite part of this whole thing. She had not shaved her legs in a couple weeks.
Okay.
It's not like it was braided with beads on it, like she did cornrows.
Because they're
traveling, hitchhiking, but she has beautiful shoes that are not like worn down. So these rings that Pamela had on were believed to have originated in the southwestern part of the U.S., which makes sense, like Native American or Mexican, which makes a lot of sense because she came from Colorado, they thought. That's where the last place she'd been seen. So one ring had this like beautiful feather scrolling. One ring had a black oblong stone, and then around it were turquoise chips. And then one was a metal band with red, white, and blue stones. I mean, it was typical 1970s jewelry, but it wasn't like cheap shit you buy at the fair.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It may not have been custom made for them, but it was, nice stuff.
Sure.
You would think maybe somebody who's like hitchhiking their way across the world wouldn't have given a shit about, not the world, but the country. So this is a very interesting detail. It's sort of heartbreaking that it didn't work out. But in December of 1976, 5 months after they were murdered, a man named Lonnie Henry was arrested while driving intoxicated in South Carolina. He was 75 miles northeast of where the bodies were found. There was a revolver found in his possession, and it was proven to be the murder weapon of,
Oh, okay.
He said, my brother Jim gave it to me as a Christmas present several years earlier. The gun was found to have been stolen before coming into his possession. So, he said he was 80 miles away at the time of the murders visiting his wife, and she was in the hospital. And here's the thing. His alibi couldn't be confirmed or disproven. He was frequently at the hospital in August of 76, but back in 76, it wasn't confirmed the dates he came to visit. Things are definitely different now. They know every time you visit the bathroom when you go to a hospital.
Yeah.
But they were like, he was there quite often in August of 76, back and forth from the hospital to his house, but we don't know for sure that he was there on August 9th. So he took several different polygraph tests and the results were mixed, but we know people that have taken them and failed and they have nothing to do with nothing, and people have taken them and passed and they did everything. Right. So what they sort of decided after the polygraph test is that he probably didn't commit the murders, but he may know more knowledge about who did.
Got it. So
it's difficult to, when you couldn't prove he was at the hospital, there was no definitive proof he was there, but he says he was. His wife vouched for him, but she's in the hospital. Does she remember the dates correctly?
Yeah. So
they ended up not being able to charge him. They didn't have sufficient evidence.
Okay.
So he ends up dying in 1982, a free man, and then here's the other fun twist, because he just cannot stop confessing. So Henry Lee Lucas said, oh yeah, I did it. Okay. Yeah, I was in South Carolina on August 9th and I murdered those two people and two other people and an elderly woman and a young man. And they were like, oh, look, no, you did not. You did not do that. You did a lot of other shit, you piece of shit, but you didn't do any of those things. So he actually was convicted on, I thought it was 10, but this says 11 murders. But he also confessed to 50 that he could not have done.
Wow.
Yeah. So they investigated everything they could about the Does, James and Pamela, but they're like, no, that, So this is another great, interesting, weird thing about this case that's so twisty and turny. They had like matching colored skin and similar features. So at first they were like, are they brother and sister?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They didn't know for sure like what they look alike. So they actually exhumed their bodies in 2007. And then like a preliminary DNA test said, no, they're not related. And then in 2021, here's who they are. So Pamela and James, and we know who they are now, but we don't know who did this to them or why. There's nothing that happened before or the people that, in 76 records, it's hard to, find everything. But the people that came in contact with remembered them.
Okay.
They were memorable. They were a beautiful young couple and they did not look like homeless people.
Yeah.
I don't know much about I don't know how or where they met. If he came from Pennsylvania and she came from Colorado, maybe they met somewhere in the middle.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And decided to hitchhike across the country.
Sure.
In 76, I mean, you never want to say hitchhiking is a good thing, but it was much more prevalent.
You're sure.
Much more prevalent.
Yeah.
So if by chance you happen to know anything about Pamela Buckley and James Freund, or who did this to them, even if you don't know them, but if you know something about an asshole, who may have done something like that, or was, somehow related to Lonnie Henry or his brother, Jim. If anyone said anything to them and you happen to know something about them, because I will tell you, I had a conversation with a woman from Colorado this week, and we know someone in common, and it's a small damn world.
Right.
A small world. Because she's never left Colorado. I lived in Kentucky and now live in California. And I am like, are you kidding me? We both know this person? It was fascinating. I just feel like the world is huge and smaller than we think.
Totally.
Yeah. So if you know anything, please call the Sumter County Sheriff's Department at 803-436-2000. That's 803-436-2000. And you can always call us at 832-847-7837. That's 832-TIPSTER. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on any of the social media platforms, the Just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter, and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.